Alright, so if you're a PlayStation fanboy like me, it's been hard to ignore this game. It's a PlayStation first-party exclusive, it makes headlines, and it consistently scores in the 9 out of 10 area. And apparently it has a pretty avid fan base, so I thought I'd give it a shot with my hard-earned welcome back pass from the PlayStation Network. What the fuck are you people thinking? This has to be one of the most generic games I've ever played. The lead character's name is Cole McGrath, and I swear if video games had a county fair, this guy would be Sucker Punch's blue medal winning entry for the most generic action protagonist. It really amazes me that people were actually upset that Sucker Punch considered changing the character's look for the sequel. I mean really, how could you people give a shit? It's pretty obvious this character and actually this game was made with the specific intention of creating a video game that resembled an atypical, super generic comic book universe. Seriously, generic is this game's middle name. It takes place in a big city named Empire City that's full of skyscrapers, because that's where every superhero universe has to be, right? The enemies use generic names like Reapers, and Cole is pretty much your stereotypical gruff stoic superhero who you couldn't squeeze an ounce of serious emotion out of. Like other superheroes of various comics, one moment he's a typical loner male, the next he gains superpowers and for some reason goes to work fighting bad guys out of the kindness of his heart. Having a few generic elements can be almost unavoidable in a lot of video games, but I just really wanted Sucker Punch to give me something that didn't feel like a complete capitalization on something that had already been done. One of the problems I have lately with video games is with reviewers handing out good scores for the wrong reasons. I've actually heard reviewers refer to the plight of the commoners you'll meet on the streets in Empire City as heartbreaking. Maybe I'm just a bit jaded, but I find it very hard to care about the random non-playable characters that you've just met and talked to for a few seconds, even if they give me a really sad sob story. I think that sort of thing is just done better when it's a relationship that's built up longer. In the end, there just wasn't really anyone I cared about in this game's universe. The plot was so uninspiring it's not even worth mentioning. The go anywhere do anything sandbox nature of this game has also been hyped to death. Just because the game takes place in an open world doesn't by itself add that much to a video game. The open world things you can do in this game won't give it the kind of longevity that Grand Theft Auto had, since there's a lot more to do in Grand Theft Auto. Open world in this game basically means you can explore rooftop after rooftop, street after street. It's nice to have that as an option, but it's been done better before. I would also submit the morality system is another needless addition that's been thoroughly overrated in the reviews. In the end, it just doesn't add that much, and I would have rather gotten caught up in a better, more focused story with characters that I actually cared about. This is a problem with Western game design. Usually feeling or emotion of any kind is very contrived in Western games. It's like the designers who write this stuff expect people to care about a story or a character without giving them any real serious connection to the player. There was a reason you cared about what happened to Ares in Final Fantasy VII. The design of that game gave a very good reason to connect with her emotionally. There were a lot of reasons you cared about Maria in Silent Hill too. She embodied James's wife, she was about the only character James really had in that desolate city, and it made you feel horrible when you couldn't save her. These characters developed some kind of meaningful history with the main character who you empathized with throughout the game. I suppose one could argue that it's the city that you build a history/relationship with throughout this one, so it's the city that fulfills this role here, but I find that hard to subscribe to. A city just doesn't fill the role of a person, and it doesn't hold the same kind of importance or emotional worth for me. Believe it or not, I'm not actually saying this game is totally bad. It's really not. The controls and graphics, pretty much the entire game engine, work very well. The gameplay, which I consider to be the most important part of a video game, is pretty decent, but mostly because the climbing elements of this game are good. Climbing in video games seems to be something that Sucker Punch is pretty darn good at. On another positive note, I thought that using the Transformers as goals was a clever way to progress the game. Cole does this to re-establish the city's power grid, and the surge of electricity gives him the ability to learn a new power. It makes sense as a good way to progress the game and give the game an excuse for Cole to learn a new power. Also, although some of the music is a little too Dark Knight-esque, some of the soundtrack from this game is quite incredible. I would even say some of the coolest soundtrack music that I've heard, and surprisingly reminiscent of those cool fantasy movie soundtracks. If you watch the new Riding Hood movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, so kudos to the composer. Overall, I just expected more from this game. This is from the creators of Sly Cooper, and I really did like those games, yet the personality and charm that those games contained aren't even attempted in this one. The only thing it really has to fall back on is the gameplay, which is a bit of a saving grace. Once again, this isn't a bad game at all, but with the talent that went into it, the production value, and the review scores I've been seeing that are overwhelmingly positive, I have a serious problem. If I were to give this game an unbiased and honest review score, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10, but to give that some perspective, I would expect a game I scored as such to get about an 8 on IGN.